Hey everyone, this is Julian from the Binary Lab, and today in this video I'm going to be talking about my recent trip to Universal Studios Japan located in Osaka, and I'm going to be talking about Universal Standard versus Express. So, um, like, we went on a Saturday because on a Friday it was raining. And on a hindsight, on a Friday, that would have been the best time to go because on Friday in Japan, it's still a weekday, and most people, most office workers in Japan, they work full hours. They don't leave early like in most other countries, but they work full hours. But the point of the matter is that on weekdays, well, the office people are still at work, and the people who are who school are still in school. So that actually creates an opportunity that like everyone who goes in to Universal Studios on a weekday would have significantly less queuing time. Why? Because there's less students, there's less high school and college students, there's less adults, and there's less adults bringing children because these adults are probably working and they're unable to take the kids out. And one more thing is that in Universal Studios Japan, I want to share with you that in Osaka it's quite different from, let's say, Disneyland in Tokyo, where there are a little bit more tourists. Although it's already quite few in Tokyo, but in Osaka it's even fewer. Most of the crowd is just pure Japanese domestic crowd. Um, so on a ordinary day, you can actually go in and at any time of the day, and possibly you could get very little queue for the rides. Most people would deliberate between buying standard entry ticket or Universal Express pass, which would be usually like twice the cost, or even more than twice the cost, depending on how many rides you want to choose. Well, back in the day, it was like you just pay a fixed amount for Universal Express. But now they have split out the components. Do you want the Universal Express for 4 rides or for 7 rides? And depending on which country, they could be more or less than that. So we took the 4 pass because there were basically just 4 rides that we wanted to look at. And for the other ones, we decided that we're just gonna go with a strategy that we'll walk in at 30-second intervals and take the single entry queue, which could be significantly shorter. For instance, there was one of the rides, it was Spider-Man, and the single entry queue was 5 minutes. The Universal Express was probably about 6 because my wife and a friend went on that queue, and was probably, actually, the single was 5, Universal Express was like between 6 and 7 minutes, and then the regular entry was about 25 minutes, so it's a huge difference. Um, and now, with what has this got to do with like trading? Okay, this is Binary Lab. This is a trading channel. Uh, the point I'm trying to make is that, like, if you there are these people who go in on a weekend, and they spend all that time queuing. Like, if we didn't take Universal Express, which we did, okay, which still cut the time was not cut short by, hang on, the time that we waited for per ride. Okay, for example, the main ride that most people want to check out at the what do you call that? I think it was called Jurassic. It's where you are supposedly, like you put in a seat, and the seat is tilted up this way so that you go in a hang gliding position, and then you go around a roller coaster ride. So that supposedly is the number one ride. And then on top of that, the other one that we did on Express was Spider-Man. Spider-Man was so-so, but the one that we felt was really, really good was, which one was that? We didn't do Evangelion. That was supposedly a 4D show, but there was one ride that was really good. It was, hang on, damn it, I can't remember. I know it was better than Bumblebee. It was better than Spider-Man. Uh, Crap, what was it? Okay, so if any of you visited Osaka, fill me in the details for what you think the ride I'm talking about. But okay, that one would have been a 100-minute queue, which we got in for about 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, significantly less time. So if someone lives in Japan, okay, besides the fact that it's a peculiar place in Universal Studios Osaka, because a lot of the locals, they spend more time queuing and waiting for the best seats, or rather getting the best positions to watch the parades, and not actually to take the rides. Kind of strange, right? Yeah, that's an interesting fact for you. But let's say for those people out to take the rides, and there were a couple of really really good rides, and the second one, I think you'll probably find out when you get there. What was it called? Hollywood Dream? No, I didn't take that one. I didn't take that one. Damn it, I can't remember what the second one. It was the second best one. It's interesting why I can't remember it, because it was actually really good. Anyways, I'll remember it when I do. But in the meantime, we could have waited for hours and hours and spent the whole time waiting, which wouldn't probably be a bad thing, because I see that when people visit Universal Studios, like when they're standing in queue, some people they meet up because it's high school reunion. Some people go, because they're colleagues at workplace and they just wanna they wanna meet up to go together. Uh, and some people could be like good friends, or some people are couples. But standing in the queue, when you have to, like, most people don't ever look unhappy or stressed or tired, because they're just so busy, engaged in conversation, and they actually build relationships. All right. But the thing is that for us, okay, we're not from Japan, we're from outside of Japan. We're just there for a few days. I was there for a workcation. I had to meet some brokers as the highlight of the trip. But besides of that, obviously it's like rest and relax time. And so I had little time to do a lot of things. So if we had spent, all the time in queuing, it would have been draining, number one. Number two, we probably could have ridden half the rides we rode, and we would have felt that time was not very well spent, because, queuing 2 hours for 2 minutes is stupid, right? Right? So how's this related to trading? Because we went on Universal Express, we queued about 15% as much as most people, I would say. And like while, like I said, time spent in queues can be de-stressing. No, hang on. Time spent in queues can be strengthening relationships, but I would compare it to the time that you spend trying to find your own methods in trading. Sometimes, when you're trying to figure out yourselves, and then, like, you get a hit, you fall back, you get a hit, you fall back. But at the end of the day, you're spending a lot of time to do very little. And you're spending a lot of time to learn what other people would have learned in a very short time if they decided to take an express route. So there are express ways of learning, and that is to learn from people who already know, rather than figuring out yourself. And figuring out yourself is expensive. Even if, or you may say that, well, Universal Express, we pay like over twice the ticket price. But let's say if you're in a foreign country and you have limited time, costs you a lot of things to do, and the fact that you want to have the best experience, then time is money. And sometimes the time that you have there, because you pay for your travel tickets, you pay for your hotel, you pay for expensive transport, because sometimes you get lost and you have to take the taxi. Taxi is hell of expensive, probably the most expensive in any country I've visited in my life. Okay, like a 2 kilometer journey costs like, almost $20. So it's expensive. But we had to take it at some point because we got lost and we were running out of time to make, like, 3 different connections. So like, you could spend time mucking around, or you could spend a little premium and possibly save you a lot. Okay? What I really felt for is the people who are waiting for one of the rides. I think it was the Hollywood Dream one. That there was a lot. There was, when I wanted to go in as Universal Express, they said, sorry, we're not taking any more people. That I said, what's this about? I see a queue of people right over there, and they said, well, these people, well, actually the ride is temporarily closed for security check and safety checks. But these people, they have chosen to remain in the queue so that when it comes back on, they can just take it. So those people who have queued for over an hour, they have to probably wait another, 45 minutes to get their technical problems fixed. Whereas I, on the other hand, when I came back to that ride, I just showed my Universal Express QR code and walked right in. So that's a lot of difference. It's like sometimes when you try to do things the free way, it takes you a lot more time, and if time is money, and time can be money in trading. It's in trading. It's not just about waiting, because in trading you are actually there to make money, and every mistake is a loss of profit, and every mistake is a dip in your capital, and an add to your stress. So, is it worth it to figure out for yourself? Well, yes, in certain ways, if you like to analyze, if you like to learn, if you think it's enriching, just like people standing in queues talking to one another, it's enriching for relationships. So, like some of the analytical time is worth it. But would you rather instead, learn the proper method and spend the time that you will be trying to figure things out to instead figure out, like how to do the method that you learned better, how to do your homework, to do the back test and uh, back test and rehearsal that I've been talking about in the previous videos. Now I want to give you another separate example. Okay, like at this present moment, my car is undergoing engine swap. So I imported an engine from Poland to put in my Audi A7, and it will basically transform this car from an Audi A7 to an RS7. Because before this, I've already done my brakes, I've already done my suspension, I've already done like strut, body body struts and all that. And the only remaining thing, the drivetrain, the new engine block, which comes from an S7. So it's going to become, it's going to rock. Okay. Now, when I was searching for a place to do the engine swap, this was the stressful part, because this involved me interviewing people that have different garage owners to find out if they have experience doing this thing or not. And some do, some claim that they do, and some really do. And the things that you hear is very different between someone who kinds of knows, doesn't really know, and someone who knows. The confidence is different as well. But this is not talking about confidence. But the point of the matter is that when I was speaking to one of the guys who kind of knows, all right. So he's mentioned to me that he's done some swaps in the past. Some worked out, some didn't, and like for the ones that didn't, like he was he just didn't know how to make it work out, and he basically told me that he and the person who he and her customer had pre-agreed that he's not going to be held responsible if it doesn't work out. So sometimes when you spend time figuring things out, not really knowing how to do it, what's going to happen at the end of the day is that you may just, after all that time and effort, you come to nothing. Like sometimes you think that you're rather than paying for Universal Express, rather than paying to learn, such as like in Binary Lab and Binary Lab Elite, Binary Lab Basic. What's the difference? Some people ask me, what's the differences between these two? Well, I say that Binary Lab Basic, I give you building blocks, I teach you in detail, I give you very, very good training in detail. But in Binary Lab Elite, I actually show you how it can be put together, and on top of that, I will coach you in putting things together as well. Like yesterday's webinar, I have coached my students on how to combine things that make sense, and on top of that, to optimize. Along the lines of what I've shown you in the previous video, I showed you how to backtest and rehearse. Okay, I've shown people actual case study, how to tweak, how to optimize, how to improve the method. Okay, you can get a gist of that watching my previous on-screen video about backtest and rehearse if you haven't already done so yet. I highly recommend that you watch it. Now, with regards to the engine swap, eventually I went to the guy who knows it, has a high success rate, has got a portfolio. And the interesting part, it actually cost him less. No, sorry, it cost me less. I had different quotes of the engine swap cost. The guy who knew how to do it, he quoted me about 1,700 USD. That's about right. It's about the kind of it's thereabouts, all right. And then I had a quote from another guy who kind of knows, that also failed a couple of times, and he quoted around 4,000 USD. That was like a lot more. And then there was a guy that didn't know, and he was probably prepared for all kinds of extra costs to make things work out, and he quoted me a price like 18k USD. ridiculous. So, I mean, the cost of failure is expensive. And like, if you are looking, if you came into trading because you wanted to improve your finances, to work towards a goal, to put your kid into college, to supplement your income, to perhaps buy a vacation for your family, to propose to your spouse, to marriage, and whatnot. Okay, uh, then time is money. And it's interestingly enough that over here in the Binary Lab Elite, I mean, what you would spend is not, uh, is nothing in compared to what you would lose uh, with other courses that don't work, other courses that don't have a support community, other courses that don't have live webinars, other courses where you know the coach cannot really troubleshoot for you, but I can because I've done this for a while. I have a knack for teaching, I have a knack for analysis, and I can actually do these things. So, uh, basically, in this video, I just wanted to relate my experience of when visiting Universal Studios in Osaka, Japan. Uh, I think that when I took Universal Express, it was the best decision ever. Uh, like, although it costs twice as much, or a little bit more than twice as much, but we saved a lot of precious time, and we could have got fatigued from a whole day taking a whole bunch of rides, or we could have got fatigued for taking half the rides or less than half the rides, maybe even a third of the rides, and still in the same amount of time, which would have been a more fulfilling day. So you could go out if you are a traderholic, and I know some of you are. Although I personally recommend most traders to spend not more than like 2 rounds of 45 minutes in a day. In fact, I personally spend like 2 rounds of 20 minutes in a day, and I think that's sufficient. But some people are traderholics. You could be out there for hours and hours. Would you want to finish hours and hours of trading to have a good result, or to have a so-so result, or to be in a loss? That's something for you to think about, and that's what I want to leave you with. Bye for now. Good trading. I'm Julian Wong from the Binary Lab.